Okay, welcome to life coaching classes and videos by Universal Recovery 360. I will be your host. Today, what we're going to talk about is maxims of law. Right? Now, I know one of the things that most people think about when they think about government is that everything is governed. Right? But according to the maxims of law, there's one thing that's not governed or cannot be governed, and it's called truth. And one of the main maxims of law is that truth is sovereign, which means it is self-governing, which means nothing else can tell it what to do. So one of the things you have to understand about you or yourself is that when you speak the truth, you become self-governing, which means nobody can tell you what to do, technically. But here's how it works, and I'm going to give you a few examples. I decided to cancel my policy with Metro PCS, and due to some, ignorance on their part, and thinking that, they got the best deals and you're just going to have to put up with it, so I decided to cancel. So I went down to Boost Mobile, and they had some phones on sale. Right, if you transferred your plan over to them, right, you get a free phone. Right, so I went to the store, and the gentleman got online with his supervisor, and the supervisor indicated which phones for him to offer me. Meanwhile, they had some phones lined up that you could choose from. So I decided I wanted one of the phones that was lined up that you could choose from. And so the gentleman says, the phones, we don't have that phone in stock. I said, well, okay, well, can you tell me which store does? That way I can go to that store, get the phone. So he decided to tell me, oh, okay, well, don't worry about it. Take one of the phones that we have here, and when the phones come in, they should be coming in 2 weeks. When the phones come in, you can just come in and, trade it out for the phone you want. So I did that. Took the phone, and I went back in 2 weeks, and the gentleman wasn't there, and I was informed that the gentleman no longer worked there and that there are no exchanges. So I said, I'm not here to do an exchange, right? An exchange happens after you pay for something. Your employee made the deal with me before I paid for something. It's the reason I paid for something. Okay, so the young lady in the store called the supervisor, but before she called the supervisor, she decided to tell me, well, you let him tell you something like that, then you let him trick you, right? And I'm sure she just wasn't aware. She's just an employee. So I informed her that I didn't just talk to some guy on the street who tricked me, sweetheart. All right, the gentleman that I spoke to had on the same shirt you're wearing, right? He was inside of the same store you're in, right? He sat behind the same desk you're sitting at, right? He used the same computer you're using, therefore he was an agent of this store, right? So she called the supervisor. The supervisor said, okay, tell him to come back Monday. I'll speak with him Monday. So I went back Monday, and the supervisor never showed. So the young lady, a different young lady, called the supervisor to see where he was, and he left her a message stating he's not coming and he's not exchanging the phone. So I said, I'm not here for an exchange. I'm here for what was, what the deal was, what was offered to me, right, in advance of payment. So I called Sprint, and I spoke with some of their agents, and they tried to get me to run around. They gave me the same excuse, tried to make it seem like, I made a bad decision, that I need to just deal with it. I said, okay. So I went home, and I contacted the Better Business Bureau, right? So the Better Business Bureau contacted the main office of Sprint, and their agent called me and tried to tell me, well, they're just, right, they don't actually work for us. we don't actually deal with them in that manner. And I said, well, if you don't deal with them in that manner, why did the Better Business Bureau contact you? Right? So her thing was, okay, well, I see what happened. In actuality, your receipt says you have to do an exchange within 7 days. And I said, once again, it wasn't an exchange, right? I know what an exchange is. An exchange happens after you pay for something. So she continued to try to get me to allow her to say what happened was that I was exchanging the phone, and I refused. Right? So I told her, listen, I'm not going to argue with you, right? I just wait till somebody else decides to call me. So what she decided to do was reach out to the people here, right, that don't work for her. Right? So I spoke with him and I explained to him what happened, and they decided, okay, well, the phone isn't in stock, right? So we could either pay your phone bill for 2 months, right? Or, let me know if that works for you. And if not, we'll try to come up with something else. And I was like, no, I don't want you to pay my phone bill for 2 months. I want the phone that I asked for, right? And then, so I said to him, well, since the phone isn't in stock, right, I'll take an equivalent to the phone, because when I buy phones, I buy it because it has a certain setup inside of it, right? The memory, the capabilities, right? So I found another phone with those same capabilities, right? And so he called me back and he said, okay, I'm going to meet you down at the store, and we're going to give you the phone. So I went down there to the store and I said to the young lady, when she saw me, she went and started reaching for the boxes, and she picked out the phone and she took it to the desk, and I said, okay, I'm assuming they informed you of what happened. And she said, her response to me was what, that you don't have to pay for it? And I said to myself, like, this is an employee defending her store, so I'm not gonna take that personal. So what I said to her was, I'm not actually getting it for free, ma'am. I'm actually getting what I paid for, right? So that was the first example, right? Because if you don't stand up for yourself, right, this is another maxim: he who leaves the battlefield first is lost, right? And so if you give up, then of course they're going to walk all over you. But I ended up getting the phone I wanted. I ended up dropping my complaint, but I did file a complaint and I did get what I paid for. So that's one example. Another example is, let me see what happened. I want to make these good examples because I do this on a regular basis. I just don't let people take advantage of me. That's just not in me anymore since I've been educating myself. What was it? Let's get back to it because I don't offhand remember what it was that I wanted to talk about. But in any event, you have a couple of maxims that are very powerful. Of course, the main one is that truth is sovereign. The other one is that he who leaves the battlefield is lost. And then there's another one that says that, you can forfeit your rights. I'm paraphrasing. You can forfeit your rights due to a tacit agreement. In other words, if you don't speak up, they'll assume you don't care. Right? If someone sends you something telling you what they're going to do, right, and you don't speak up, then they're going to do it, right? It means you agree to it. Let's say you get a letter from a company saying, okay, you have 30 days to pay this bill, but it's not your bill, right? If you don't argue it or debate with them about it within those 30 days, you lose due to a tacit agreement. Tacit agreement means that you've agreed by not responding, right? So you have to learn how to speak up for yourself. You have to learn how to respond. And in the event something like that happens. And a lot of our people don't, because we feel like we can't win, right? But again, when you use the truth, right, there is no fighting it. There is no, okay, let's debate that. There is no debating. Truth is sovereign. It doesn't answer to anyone, right? And so one of the things that I learned how to do in business is deal with the truth. I have corporate account with Wells Fargo, and they just sent me a monthly invoice saying that they took $10 for service fees. Now, I know you think, well, it's $10. It's not a lot. It's not about the $10. It's about complying with the agreement that we made. We made an agreement, myself and Wells Fargo, that if I keep a certain amount of money in the corporate account, right, the fees would be waived. So now I have to go down there and straighten it out. And of course, that's what I'm going to do, right? Because when I make an agreement, you hold me accountable. So when you make an agreement with me, I'm going to hold you accountable. Right? That's what I do today. I don't just sit back, get mad, frustrated, and let it all build up in me and then go running, right? Because I can't win. There's no such thing as winning or losing. There's just truth. So, what was the other issue that I had? I was with an agency. I know that. Anyway, I guess I have to do the next issue on another class. But what I want you guys to know, right, is if you're wrong, right, in doing something, don't try to fight it with truth. But if you're right when you're doing something and what you're saying is the truth, right, you need to learn how to stick to your guns. You need to learn how to communicate, right, your truth. You can't just let people send you 10 pages of bureaucratic mess, right, that after page 2 you done miss so much of the first 2 pages that you don't even want to read the rest, and you just say, you know what, who cares, right? And then you end up in all kind of debts, right? Because these agencies have decided, right, to take advantage of you. It's like Facebook. They'll send out these algorithms saying, okay, in about 30 days they're going to start charging you, and everybody goes, oh, it's fake, it's crap, it's fake, it's crap, it's fake. One day you're going to get that bill. And the first thing that's going to come out their mouths is, well, we informed you we were going to pay, we were going to charge you, because you think it's just people doing that. It's actually the corporation doing that to see how many people are going to fight, how much they can charge you without you willing to fight. Like, how much is minimal to the majority of the community to the point where people will pay, right? There's an algorithm for that. And it's going to tell them that 75% of the people are willing to pay or won't argue with $1.99. But when you're looking at 3 billion people using your service and 3 billion people paying $1.99, right, on top of all the money you making for people using your services anyway, right? But in order to understand that part, you got to understand how the internet works, because people get paid for people visiting their sites, right? So on top of all of that, you're going to have a person, a corporation making billions off of you, right? Just because you won't say anything, right? Just because you're willing to put up with it, right? So every now and then, right, when somebody sends me a letter like that, right, I communicate with them, simply because I know he who leaves the battlefield first is lost, and that you can agree by non-compliance. It's called tacit. So I don't do that anymore, right? I don't give up on myself, right? I fight for the things I want, right? I'm trying to build something for myself, right? And when you start that process, a lot of things are going to get in your way, right? And you can't get frustrated, right? You have to find your truth and you have to stick to it. It's simple, but it's not easy, right? Things get better, but they don't get easier, right? So as of right now, universal recovery, let me give y'all an update. Universal recovery is in the first 3 months of the year, which means there's a whole lot of paperwork. I'm gonna give y'all some heads up on that. and maybe tomorrow, it's my day off, what you have to look forward to if you decide to incorporate a business. Whether you have a functioning business that you decided you want to legalize or make it legitimate so that you can probably have a public offering at some point, an IPO, an initial public offering at some point where you can get people to invest in your business, right? In order to do that, you have to go through a process of incorporation. Or even if you just want to be a limited liability, or you just want to be a nonprofit, right? There's a lot of paperwork, and a lot of people will give up because they feel like it's just too much, right? Because when you're independent, you don't have lawyers and stuff like that, to take care of all that stuff for you. You have to do it yourself, right? And they have all these, legal Zooms and all these things designed to help you for a price, right? The best thing you can do is do your own research, right? And I know a lot of people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on college so that they can learn how to do their own research. But the truth is, you could do your own research and you don't have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Most people who go to college have spent so much money on college and can't get a job that they could have took that money that they spent and started their own business. Right? But here's the problem. They'll give you hundreds of thousands of dollars for school, but they won't give you hundreds of thousands of dollars to start your own business. So of course it's easier to apply for school, okay? Because you feel like once you do that and you get the credits, you get the paperwork, then you can go do what you want. You can go out there and fight and become that success you want to be. 60% of the people who go to college are struggling finding a job, right? Debt, living below the poverty level with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. So I decided that I'd do my own research, right? I mean, we have the information highway today, so I download any book I need for a particular thing. Teach yourself how to study. Teach yourself how to do research. Teach yourself. You have the capabilities. Realistically, when you go to a school, there's a book that you have and someone explaining to you what the book says. How ignorant is that? Okay? How ignorant is that? Okay? Hands-on experience. It's hard to come by. All right, most people won't give you an opportunity to get hands-on experience if you don't have the education, the paperwork on paper, right? And then if you do have it on paper, if you don't go through the educational process, which means the school that you paid all this money to in order to get your hands-on experience, won't nobody give you an opportunity to get hands-on experience. You could be the best in your field, right? But you need somebody else to let you in. No, open the door. Walk through the door, right? Let yourself in, right? So don't allow society to convince you, right, that everything you do needs to be approved by somebody, right? If you live in the truth, right, you don't need approval. Truth is sovereign. This is their stuff. This is what they know, right? Truth doesn't answer to anybody. So if I'm living in truth, right, and I decide I want to do something, I don't need your permission. I don't answer to you. That's how you got to think. But you can't get a big head because you feel like you figured something out. That's the other thing that happens, that people have been getting used for so long, right, that the minute they find a way, right, and they find an opt-out, right, they become big-headed, right? Then all of a sudden you can't tell them nothing. Not just you, but their family members, their wives, their daughters, their sons, their mothers, that process travels in everything they do. Right? Don't do that to yourself. Find out who you are, right? Monitor who you are, right? And become the best you can be. Right? Now, I don't claim that my vision of universal recovery didn't start out as a dream. I know it did. I don't claim that universal recovery will be, right, a functioning facility. Right? What I claim is that I will continue to do what I need to do next in order to make that a reality, right? I claim that if my next step, right, is to reach out to investors, then that's what I'm going to do, right? If it doesn't work, then I'll do it again, right? If it doesn't work, then I'll do it again, right? If my next step is to see what kind of loans or business loans are available to somebody such as myself, then that's what I will do next, right? So my claim that universal recovery will become a reality is based on the fact that I will do what I need to do next, not that it's gonna happen. You understand the difference? It's not about, right, me wanting something and going to get it, right? There's a process in between me wanting something and me having something, right? That process is one step, next step, next step, next step. Like my last step was creating a private placement memorandum, right? CYA, in other words, cover your ass. I learned that from a friend of mine, Joanne. I love her, by the way. She's on Facebook under Joey B. One of my best friends in the world. She taught me that I need to make sure I cover my ass. Excuse my French. And so I just completed my private placement memorandum. So in my process of moving forward, right, the new year started. So my process was not halted. My process was horizontally sidetracked, but it's still moving forward. In other words, when the new year comes in, you have to update your status, your corporate status, right? You have to file your corporate taxes, right? All that has to be done between January and March, right? And you have to pay your fees and your dues. So that's where I'm at now. It doesn't take me off track. It's still a part of what I have going on, right? But that's what I have to do next. Once I do that, I'll get back to my next step in my process of moving forward to making that my reality, right? That will not be my reality because I said so. That will be my reality because I'm doing what needs to be done next, right? There's always something that needs to be done next, right? Don't get depressed, beat up, or convinced that it's never going to happen because you can't see it, because the next step is a step that's so complicated you wasn't prepared for it. Just take a step back, right? Look, reevaluate the step that you're on and do what you have to do to climb it. It's a simple process. It's something they don't teach us, right? They teach us to dream. Right? Dream. You got a dream, right? Make it happen, right? No. Envision, right? You don't want to dream. Sleepers dream. They never wake up. You never wake up from dreams, right? If you turn your dream into a reality, that means that you had the dream while you were awake, right? They call it daydreaming, whatever you want to call it, right? But it's more of a vision where everything else blocks out around you and you see something. You get that bright light, right? Put your vision into its process, right? We don't all have the funds and the means to decide, okay, I'm going to open up whatever, a school, right? And then We just go down, pull the money out of our checking accounts, go buy the building, right? Go pay for everything that needs to be done. Get us an attorney. Get us a CEO, CFO, right? And get us a manager and let them put it into reality. We don't all have that process, so we have to do it ourselves. If you want something, don't dream big, right? Be big. Right? Stop letting these people convince. I mean, even Trump said the reason he gave the tax breaks to the rich is because they're the ones that's going to hire people, right? Why would you be so invested in the rich hiring people when you could be easily invested in people becoming financially independent? Right? Y'all need to think about that. They always want you in a place where, right, like a 9 to 5, it is a place where you at work during the time you could be creating, right, starting your own stuff, right? But you're so busy with your 9 to 5 that by the time you take a vacation, they got you convinced you need to take the little bit of money you got saved up and go to some island somewhere so you can relax, right? Then come back and brag about the trip you had, right? They don't have time to convince you that take a vacation and work on something for yourself. They don't have the time. The first thing people ask me when I come back from vacation is, where'd you go? No. Why would you ask me that? Why wouldn't you ask me, like, what did you work on? Or what did you do? Or how's the business? No. Where'd you go? Right? Because that's what's been implanted in the system. Right? Take your vacation, go to some beach somewhere. No. Work on yourself. Right? See your future. Be your future. Right? And again, don't get caught up in the fact that things are just the way they are, so you just got to put up with it. It's not true. It's an illusion. Now, the definition of illusion means something that will eventually pass away, which means at some point it is real, like the flesh, right? The reason people say the flesh is an illusion is because at some point, right, it will pass away, right? You will pass away physically, right? And the flesh will deteriorate, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, right? And it will be no longer, right? Eventually, but for now it is, right? So don't get confused about what an illusion is. An illusion, most people like to say, oh, it's just an illusion, it's not real. Crap, it is real. The fact is that it won't stay real forever. So if you have a dream, right, and you want to make it a reality, right, you have to keep it real. Right? You have to keep moving forward, right? Because if you stay still, eventually it'll pass away, right? Like all illusions do. So let's just say the first step of me incorporating was filing the paperwork, right? Suppose I never filed the paperwork, right? That dream will have, or that illusion will have passed away. So suppose I did incorporate, right? It's still no longer my vision, right? Because I already completed that part. So it passed away, but it's in my background now. It didn't just disappear, right? It moved to the back, right? And now I'm on something different. So I keep moving forward, right? And let the other things behind me. I let them stay behind me, so that at any given time I can reach back, right, for a reference, right? It's just like, say my sister passed away, which she did, God rest her soul, right? I can always reach back for a reference of her. I remember her, right? Just because something passes away don't mean it's gone. It just means that it passed away, right? Don't let definable words, right, create your reality. You get to do that. if you live in your truth, the truth about yourself, who you are, how you are, what you are, where you are, when you are, and why you are. Right? You don't have to be governed. You can be self-governing. Right? But you have to live in something that is self-governing. And there's only one thing that's self-governing. One. Truth. Some people will tell you truth is art, right? Or truth is everything. Some people tell you that everything is Allah, or everything is God, right? So, truth is sovereign, and it can be, and it can only be, right, independently functioning. Right? So if you want to be independently functioning, by definition, you need to be truth, right? So they tell you, right? A person will never know anything by being told, right? If you want to know something, you must yourself be what you know, right? So you have to be the truth. That way you will know the truth. Right? You can't just speak the truth, right, and not be it, right? Because then you're just lying. It won't be real. It won't be stubborn. It won't be independently functioning. Right? It will be based on the necessity of something outside yourself allowing it to be. You don't need that. You can do whatever you want. So I'm dedicating this to all my friends out there that's starting their own businesses and doing their own things. Valencia, Cannon, love you, honey. Proud of you. Sophia Guzman, love that woman to death. Donna Santo, love you to death. Lynette Vaughn, learning how to be independently functioning. I love you guys. Thomas Benjamin, all my friends, Joshua Bay, doing their own thing, independently functioning, right? Developing an understanding within themselves that lets them know that what they want is possible, and then taking the steps to get there. You will hear any one of them tell you every day, they didn't just start this yesterday. They've been doing whatever it is they're doing for years. And they've been taking one step at a time, moving one step closer and one step closer. And even to those that have gotten to where they want to be, they still maintain by continuing to take the next step, right? So I dedicate this video to them. I love you guys. 100% proud of all of you guys. There's a couple of my friends out there in Brooklyn from Ceplo that are very independently functioning. They run their own businesses. Shalik, Brooklyn born Pearson. We know him as Sha. Anthony Granville. There's a bunch of them. But y'all take examples from people that are doing, right, rather than talking about it, right? Because people are going to talk about stuff forever. Don't get caught up in the talk. Be what you know. All right, I gotta go. And when I remember that other thing I wanted to tell y'all about, I'll bring it up in my next class. Peace. Love you guys. Stay positive. Keep pushing. Never give up on yourself. And find your truth so that you can become independently functioning. Now, just because I say independently functioning doesn't mean that you don't have to comply to certain things. Like society has created a basic standard for living, which means you need housing, which means you need to be able to pay for it, which means you need food. And since food is no longer available to pluck, you need to pay for it. Right? So when you become independently functioning, don't forget that there is a requirement to that process, right, of freedom, right? And it's not something you pay for, it's something you be. Right? It's all an illusion. You can be whatever you want. Universal Recovery 360, life coaching classes and videos. Some of y'all don't know my name. It's Purnell. Y'all stay frosty. Peace.